Yo, what's going on? What's good? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. Coming up on the show on this Wednesday, April 30th, the top NFL free agents left after the 2025 NFL Draft. I want to take a look at the top players who Howie Roseman could still add to this roster, and I believe all of the players who we're about to talk about over the next several minutes make sense for the Birds. First, I want you to be the GM. Obviously, Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the game, 2 Super Bowls since 2017. He's brought 2 Lombardi trophies back to Philadelphia with 2 different head coaches and 2 different quarterbacks, and the way that he's able to manage the cap and put together these contracts, how he's able to maximize value and fleece other teams, he is a genius. So now step in his shoes and name a free agent who you want the Eagles to sign. And this might be an unpopular take to some, but I do think wide receiver depth is a sneaky need for the Eagles, because let me propose this. If A.J. Brown and or DeVonta Smith were to get injured, I would not like the outlook for this Eagles offense and what that wide receiver room would look like. Of course, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are very special as a 1-2 punch. You have Jahan Dotson as the wide receiver 3. After that, though, I just think the Eagles are a little bit thin and unproven. Johnny Wilson is the tallest wide receiver in football, but he plays small and he has questionable hands. We saw that last year. Anaya Smith is a smaller wide receiver who has some short area quickness, but he's a 4-5 guy. Really struggled in the preseason, didn't do a lot in training camp. And then he started to, after he got acclimated at the NFL level, once he got healthy and came back toward the end of the year, make some strides and showed some flashes, but by no means do I think he's ready to get a bulk share of targets. And then there's Terrace Marshall, who's a former second-round pick with a lot of ability. He played on that 2019 LSU team led by Joe Burrow, and he was a second-round pick by Carolina. He went to a bad organization, but now he's been on multiple teams, and bad news for him, I think he's rocking the number 46. So he might just be doomed just because of that alone. All jokes aside, I'm just worried about the lack of depth and the lack of talent behind A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. Now, I do think that with more targets and with more opportunities, Jahan Dotson could do something. And with Jahan Dotson, the Eagles did decline his 5th-year option, and that means that they did not guarantee his salary for the 2026 season. Obviously, today, the Eagles did exercise the 5th-year option of Jahan Dotson. And we saw last year, at the end of the year, when A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith were getting some rest stretches or did not play late in the year, when the Eagles had kind of chalked up the end of the regular season, Jahan Dotson was the number 1 wideout. He was the number 1 go-to threat. And there is a reason why he was a first-round pick by the Washington Commanders a few years ago. But the point here being, you don't want him headlining your wide receiver room if Brown or Smitty were to get hurt. And so Amari Cooper is an interesting player. And he is a borderline Hall of Famer. He has accomplished so much in his NFL career. He's slowing down a little bit. There is no doubt about that. But as a depth piece, you could certainly do worse. And you'd like to see Amari Cooper in this wide receiver room instead of a Terrace Marshall getting a lot of targets, or an Anaya Smith, a Johnny Wilson. Now, last year, between the Browns and the Bills, he did not do a ton. Keep in mind, with Cleveland, Deshaun Watson was horrible, and then he got hurt. Then he got traded to Buffalo, and you're thinking, okay, he's going to come alive with Josh Allen as the quarterback who can really spin it. He got targeted 32 times, 20 catches, 297 yards. The good, 14.9 yards per catch. You look at what he's done over the last 4 years. Why I don't think he's completely cooked is because of 2023, with bad quarterback play, he went over 1,200 yards on 72 catches, 5 touchdowns, 17.4 yards per catch. What he has to clean up, what I don't like, the drop issues. But there's a reason why he and others are available this deep into NFL free agency post-draft. If you want to go with a different style of wide receiver and you want to go from Amari Cooper to Keenan Allen, who is slower, who's more of that go up and get it, jump ball type of physical wideout who's going to try to win those 50-50s, then you would go this route. And I think both players could line up inside, outside. Last year with the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams throwing him the rock, he was targeted a ton. 121 targets, 70 catches, 744 yards, 10.6 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns, and 8 drops. The weird thing about Keenan Allen, he's known to be a wide receiver and has been known to be a wide receiver throughout his career who has been so sure-handed, who rarely drops footballs. Last year, though, that was an issue. He's never been a wide receiver who runs that well, who will be gone in the blink of an eye. That's why, again, he's that contested catch guy. And he is still, in recent memory, put up some very solid production. And if you bring a player like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen in, you're not asking them to be a number 2 or a number 3. You're asking that player not even to be the number 3, because I think Dotson is good in that role. This is a wide receiver 4, a security blanket, where if an injury happened, you would have confidence that you can put a veteran player in there. Luckily for Philadelphia, health has been on their side in recent years. Hopefully that continues to be the case. Their medical staff and training staff has done a fantastic job. I was at the Super Bowl parade. I thought it was a big flex how the training staff, they were on the float and they held up a sign, 21 to 22 starters healthy for the Super Bowl. Nakobe Dean was the only one out, and this Eagles wide receiver duo, arguably the best in the NFL. But one of my team-building philosophies, you can never have enough players at the wide receiver spot, and the Eagles did not draft one back last week. Then you go to the running back spot, and some people might say, Chase, the Eagles signed A.J. Dillon. They have the reigning offensive player of the year in Saquon Barkley, who should have been MVP in my opinion. The Eagles have Will Shipley, who I personally am very high on. But A.J. Dillon is coming off a year last year in which he had a neck injury, didn't play. And so you do have some depth concerns at the running back spot as well. You did add Shinderick Powell, UDFA, from Central Arkansas. You did add Montrell Johnson, UDFA, from Florida. Ty Davis-Price can run it very well, but he doesn't do the little things, and that's why he hasn't been able to get playing time or crack a roster as far as the 53 and actually be active on game day. He doesn't pass block. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield. He does have some fumbling issues. Runs hard, has good vision, is certainly intriguing in that regard, but can you trust him? Now, J.K. Dobbins is a tough player to trust because he's been injured a lot. But last year he goes to the Chargers. He played his college ball at Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers head coach, very familiar with his game because he was the head coach at Michigan for a long while. And he was finally able to stay remotely healthy. 13 games played, and I thought Dobbins looked very, very good. 195 carries, 905 yards, 4.6 yards per tote. He also caught the ball 32 times for a $153, 9 total touchdowns. Chargers didn't bring him back because of the health concerns, and then they addressed running back in free agency and in the draft. Last 4 years, you see that Dobbins has not played a lot of football, and these are his career numbers. He comes out of Ohio State really good as a rookie, and then he only plays 8 games in 2022, 1 game in 2023 that did include an Achilles tear, and then able to bounce back in 2024. But I think Dobbins could be a decent addition in that running back room. I'll also say this. We showed you the depth chart a little bit earlier. I think Will Shipley is RB2. I don't think it's A.J. Dillon who's RB2. You look at some sites like Our Lads, they have A.J. Dillon as RB2. I'm going Will Shipley. He has some serious juice. He can pass protect. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can be used as a weapon. He has some giddy up, and I'm very intrigued by the future that he could have. And if Saquon Barkley were to miss time, I'd be interested to see what Shipley can do. Although his White House fit, Chip, not great as a Clemson guy. Some dirty Nikes with the suit? Come on, Will Shipley. You're an NFL player. Got to do a little bit better in the Oval Office. Sorry to interrupt this video, but a quick reminder. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And in talking about free agent targets here, Eagles could make some more roster moves. When the Eagles do make a move, I always talk about it. That's why you lock us in. Hit that sub button for the most informative, insightful, thought-provoking, and entertaining Eagles coverage right here on YouTube. If you want some Eagles jerseys, by the way, we got you hooked up thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics. All you have to do, use that link down below. It's chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. You plug in that link, it'll take you to Fanatics. Fanatics will know that Chase Senior, Eagles Now, and Chatsports sent you, and you can get all types of Eagles jerseys. Current players, former players, road whites, midnight green, Kelly green, the cleanest jerseys in all of sports. We'll put that link down below in the show notes. We'll put that link attached to the pinned comment, and it's already in the comment section of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now we move forward with the top free agents left who make sense for the Philadelphia Eagles. A familiar name, safety Justin Simmons. He pretty much said to Kay Adams in the lead up to the draft, going to the Eagles makes a lot of sense. I'd love to go to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the depth chart has changed a little bit because with the 64th overall pick, the Eagles did select Andrew Makuba out of Texas. Started off his college career at Clemson as a nickel and then ended up being one of the top deep safeties in college football. Runs well, 4'4" guy, a little bit undersized, but good instincts, plays bigger than his size, makes plays on the football, and plays with a little fire. And I think that he's going to compete with Sidney Brown for that starting safety role. And then, of course, you have Reed Blankenship, one of the mainstays of this Eagles defense and arguably the most underrated player on this Eagles defense. Other than that, Andre Sam, a former UDFA, Tristan McCollum, Eagles are high on him. And then Lewis Seen, who was drafted number 32 back in 2022, the same year that the Eagles moved up to number 13 to take Jordan Davis. And obviously, Justin Simmons to Philadelphia would make a lot of sense. He was a two-time second-team All-Pro under Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio while with the Denver Broncos. Simmons is close with Christian Parker, the Eagles DB's coach, who hopefully at some point can take over for Vic Fangio. Hopefully not, though, for a few years. The Eagles traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Sidney Brown is a little bit unproven. And what Justin Simmons would bring to the Eagles, and keep in mind, he signed with the Falcons in August of last year, I believe. Great depth, leadership. He'd be cheap, and you already know he'd be a good scheme fit. And he's put together quite the resume. As a veteran depth piece, this would be a phenomenal pickup, I think. And I think that he can still play, and he struggled a little bit last year, as we're about to show you, but in this defense, compared to a Falcons defense that was new to him, he could play with feel, play with confidence, and be able to make some really quick decisions. 2016 third-round pick, a four-time second-team All-Pro as recent as 2023, when he was a second-team All-Pro 3 straight years. NFL INT co-leader in 2022 alongside C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's played 13-plus games in 8 of 9 years, and he's a ball-hawking playmaker. Now, in 2024, he definitely struggled. He talked about this with Kay Adams, and he said everything was new. So he wasn't firing on all cylinders. And the Pro Football Focus numbers, not great, as he was graded out, but a couple of positives there. Interceptions, 23rd among all safeties, 4 PBUs, 19th among safeties. If you want to go a different route at the safety spot, there's Julian Blackmon, who Nick Sirianni has familiarity with, and he's had a pretty solid career with the Indianapolis Colts. He's still out there, and I find that to be somewhat surprising. 16 games played in 2024, 86 tackles, 1 TFL, 4 pass breakups, 3 INTs, and 1 forced fumble. Now, he was targeted 23 times last year in those 16 games, and he gave up 19 catches for 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 PBUs, those 3 picks. Gave up a quarterback rating when targeted of 108.2. But that Colts defense was a mess. He comes to Philadelphia, Justin Simmons comes to Philadelphia, and when you're in a better defensive system with one of the best defensive coordinators in the history of the NFL, and you have some really good talent, that will help maximize you as a player. Blackmon 2 years ago in 2023, 5 TFLs, 8 PBUs, and 4 picks. And so he's put together a pretty good career, and at this point, none of these free agents are going to break the bank. That includes, I think, Asante Samuel Jr., the son of Asante Samuel, who was a gambling cornerback for the New England Patriots and Philadelphia Eagles, but an excellent cornerback who, in the biggest of games, always seemed to come through with the game-altering, momentum-changing interception. And Asante Samuel himself has become a really good player. Of course, some changes to the Eagles' cornerback depth chart following the NFL draft. You have to add Mac McWilliams there. Andrew Makuba is going to start off in that safety room, but he is going to play a little bit of nickel. I think Keely Ringo got some good news after the draft because the Eagles didn't take an outside corner who's seriously going to threaten him. You have Adoree Jackson on the roster, the two young stars, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Eli Ricks tweeting some crazy, hilarious stuff while during that White House visit about Ivanka Trump, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. But I think that he could be a pretty solid player if he's thrust into action. And speaking of solid players, Asante Samuel is that. Now, he had a shoulder injury last year, only played 4 games. But look at the PBU numbers. His first 3 years in the NFL after he was a second-round pick out of Florida State. Year 1 as a rookie in 12 games, 11 with 2 picks. Year 2, 11 more with 2 picks. Year 3, 13 PBUs and 2 picks. And then last year, he didn't play all that much. Maybe he's getting flagged medically, but you want to talk about instincts. You want to talk about bloodlines. And Howie Roseman has talked about bloodlines. He believes it matters. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Drew Kendall, Miles Hinton. They all had dads who played in the NFL. Asante Samuel Jr. as well, and Howie Roseman familiar with them. Because even though that was during the Andy Reid era, Howie Roseman was with this organization. I'm frankly kind of shocked that Asante Samuel Jr. is not with the team right now because I think he's one of the more underrated corners in the National Football League. If the Eagles want to go reunion with a player who can play in the box, a player who has that safety build, who can play in the slot, Rasul Douglas is a player who the Eagles drafted out of West Virginia, and over time, he has become a very, very good player. Now, I think that he was misused at times with Philadelphia, but he's gone on to have a very nice NFL career. Linebacker depth, the Eagles kind of addressed that, moving up one spot in the first round to take Jahan Campbell, but if they plan on using Jahan Campbell as more of an edge and less of an off-ball linebacker, could the Eagles go with another reunion and bring back Kyzir White, who the last couple of years has played under former Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, who Kyzir White played under in 2022 when the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl and Gannon failed to make those second-half adjustments. And we're just not sure what the future is of Nakobe Dean. You know, I think the Eagles took Jahan Campbell partially because they're worried about him coming off that patella tendon injury, which is very serious. And Jahan Campbell is an excellent athlete who is a wrecking ball. He has blazing speed sideline to sideline. He has some good coverage skills, and Nakobe Dean is also entering a contract year. The Eagles also addressing off-ball linebacker with Smile Mondone, but I think to start, he's more of a special teamer. I'm high on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think he has really good instincts, and Vic Fangio didn't shy away from putting him in the game at moments last year. And then Ben Van Sumeren, more of a special teamer. But Kyzir White, you know what you're going to get with him. That he's going to be a solid player who can tackle pretty well, and he's going to stick to his assignments. And so 1-year contract, very little money. I would explore Kyzir White if the Eagles believe that they have some concerns with that linebacker depth. So let me know. Eagles free agent targets following the NFL draft. Who is your favorite remaining free agent? It can be a player who I didn't talk about. Either way, drop me a name down in the comments section.